Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and I have another great show planned for us. But while we wait for people to gather in the chat, let me go off and, show you some artwork from my own upcoming graphic novel, Scumdogs. Tonight, though, we're going to be looking at the Philadelphia experiment and how it has to do with, aliens and, shadow people and the men in black. We'll be looking at that in a little while. Here is my cover, one of my 3 different variant covers for my graphic novel, Scumdogs. Okay? We'll be looking at that. Let me do this. Here is my cover. And basically we'll have some fun. As I said, this is my extreme cover for my graphic novel. This cover I did to harken back to the comic books of the 90s. My extreme 90s cover, I should be exact. It's one of 3 different variant covers. You'll be able to back when my Indiegogo goes live. The name of my Indiegogo is Scumdogs. It's a parody book. I parody cartoons in it. Cartoons like, Transformers and G.I. Joe, and I have some fun. In fact, I parody any cartoon I wish in my comic book that I like to make fun of. You're just going to enjoy it when it goes live. Now, Scumdogs, actual characters, in the future, there's such a thing known as the Scumdog Sports. It's basically superhuman sporting events held with superhumanly powerful monsters as athletes. See, these guys are called scum and dogs because they trade in their humanity for superpowers. They do it either through scientific experiments, having themselves transformed into monsters, or using some other methods, something more, let's say, spooky spooky or so, or maybe something to do with ghosts. You get the idea. Now, as I said, they are scum and dogs for trading their humanity and stuff. Otherwise, they're ordinary pro athletes, jerky ass guys who are just in this to make money. What happens when they get banned from sports? Well, my main characters, Deathmug and the Scumdogs, try to take over the world, and they're opposed by their arch enemies, Buick Starpin and his team in the Space Forces. Deathmug is the purple guy with the metal mask over here. He's a parody of various villains from 80s cartoons. They're overblown, arrogant, and pretty much completely out of their minds. While his archenemy Buick Starpoon is, a parody of the military macho kind of guy, as well as the space hero kind of character like James T. Kirk or Buzz Lightyear or Buck Rogers, those kinds of guys. You get the idea. And they hate each other's guts because their egos are so big they can't stand the other one existing because, they get step on each other's toes and they just hate each other's guts. Now, Deathmug, as I said, has aspects from various villains from 80s cartoons. Let's see. He's a parody of Skeletor from He-Man because he's got a skull face. He's also a parody of Cobra Commander and Serpentor from G.I. Joe because, like Cobra Commander from G.I. Joe, he's got a metal mask and he's got gold on him like Serpentor. And you see that there. While his archenemy Buick Starpoon, the guy with the pink pompadour hair over there, he's a G.I. Joe parody as well as a Space Captain parody, but he also has a military he's also has a military specialty. Oh, by the way, you see the uniform Buick Starpoon is wearing, the green and white uniform? Anyone wearing a similar uniform to him is part of his team in the Space Forces. As I said, he has a military specialty because he's a G.I. Joe parody. His military specialty is that he's a captain. He captains a starship. While this guy over here with a mohawk, his name is Roadhog. His military specialty is that he's an army guy. Just another army guy. While this bald guy with a gun down here, firing off in the blue uniform, his name is Beach Pounder. His specialty is that he is a Marine. He's just another part. He's just part of the military as well. While this guy back here in the red uniform, driving that vehicle, firing his weapons, his name is Blast Tank. He's a heavy vehicle specialist, otherwise known as a tanker. You get the idea. Other members of looks pretty good. Other members of Buick Starpoon's team will also have weird specialties and stuff like that. Looks like a pretty good cover, huh? This is one of 3 different variant covers you'll be able to back when my Indiegogo goes live. Now let's look at Girl Friday. Girl Friday is a parody, is a funny character here. She's basically a parody of the military specialist who's been assigned to another soldier, and basically she's a parody on that. She's been sent into the Wild Rangers, assigned to Buick Starpoon as the second in command. The Wild Rangers is the name of Buick Starpoon's team. Now, she's a parody of that because while the Wild Rangers do fight the scum dogs and save the day and get the job done, they're just highly destructive idiots that create so much damage to the surrounding area that her superiors in the Space Forces assign Girl Friday to the Wild Rangers to basically make sure that, well, to rein them in and keep them from destroying everything they touch. And she hates Buick Starpoon's guts. Well, Girl Friday hates Buick Starpoon's guts because she's his second in command and she can't order him around. She can basically try and steer him in the right direction and his team. But she feels like her career in the military is over because she's basically just a babysitter now. That's Girl Friday. Now let's look at Death Mug's henchman, because in all 80s cartoons, the main villain of a cartoon, his henchmen, his soldiers, the guys he gets to do the job, his henchmen, are total idiots. And these are Death Mug's idiots. The blue guy with the top hat is Murder Mouth. Yeah, the blue guy with the top hat right here is Murder Mouth. Or should I say, what else can I say about this? The blue guy with the top hat is Murder Mouth. He's in it. And the pink guy down here is Sloppy. There are a couple of idiots who can't get anything done and destroy everything they touch. I'm trying to repeat my words here and trying to make it sound as cool as possible, so I kept repeating those words over there. Mm-hmm. Sorry about that, folks. I'm just trying to get this. Murder, Mouth, and Sloppy are a parody of every henchman from an 80s cartoon. They completely screw up any order they're given, and they pretty much have a lot of fun doing it. Here we have Hair Metal Doctor, another one of the scum dogs. He joined up with Death Mug as his mad scientist. He's a parody of Dr. Mindbender from G.I. Joe. Even though he wasn't a sports athlete, Hair Metal Doctor here joined up with Death Mug because Death Mug was going to take over the world, and Hair Metal Doctor thought it was a good idea. And as I said, he's a parody of a mad scientist, but my mad scientist, well, he's a parody of Dr. Mindbender from G.I. Joe, a mad scientist. But my mad scientist here has been crossed over with a hair metal musician because I thought it would be awesome. Watch him do mad science. He thinks of all the mad gadgets and machines the scumdogs use to try to take over the world. That's Hair Metal Doctor. That's Hair Metal Doctor. Here we have Miss Breasty Melons. She's a parody character and stuff like that. She just became a villain because she wanted to have fun. And she's unlike any other female villainess because she just thought it'd be cool to be a villain. And she basically signed up with Death Mug. They have a good time. And, well, you can see she's a bit of an idiot. Let's see. Now, the Hair Metal Doctor pinup and the Miss Breasty Melons pinup here will be included with other pinups in my graphic novel for you when you back it. But I will also get these pinups out to you on T-shirts from Crypto Fashion as soon as I'm able to make them, okay? So you can basically buy them and stuff. Now, we looked at this stuff. Looks pretty good. Not too bad. Let me exit out of these. Now, before we look at the Philadelphia experiment, let's go to Indiegogo right here. Graveyard Shift has ended. That's pretty good. If you didn't back it, that's fine. But Gunship Thunder Punch still can be backed, and that's pretty good. Alien Alamo is still funding. That's also very good. A few new Indiegogos are up. Sunsworn has made $8,585. Not bad. We have Sunrise, Elvira's Classic Adventure Collection, made $60,000 already. That's damn good. I think only in its first 30 days, too. That's very good. Out of the box, right there, Shihokio, not bad, made $154,449. That is very good as well. Yeah, not too bad. Let's look at this. Doesn't look like anything new. Too much is up. Some of these comics look pretty good. Maybe look at something a little more interesting. Maybe I'll go back over here. I got something to do first. I want to try something. Maybe do that. Over here, let's see. Any new Indigo goes up. Starlight Cats has made $110,000. Monster Girl Academy has made $11,000. Requiem for the Crazy has made $41,000. Camel Moon's Hell Salad has made $49,000. All right. Gray Matter, a dark sci-fi comic, has made $5,000. It's another good-looking book. Good-looking books on Indiegogo. Stomp, the comic book, is now funding through in demand. It's made $5,527. If you might want to back it soon, folks, because you never want to know when it's going to get out of demand. All of it looks pretty good. Alien Alamo is doing good. Not bad. I did say I was going to look at the Philadelphia experiment today, folks, and how it has something to do with aliens and, well as the shadow people and stuff like that. We're going to be looking at that in a moment. Let me go over here. Have you guys hit that like button for me? Good. That's pretty good. If you have not hit that like button for me yet, folks, please do so, as well as please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics They're Bad For You. Hit that bell for notifications and make sure to hit the thing where you get all my future notifications as well. As well as please go share this video out on social media. Now, there's that there. There's Philadelphia experiment. Not too bad. All right, let's go and what should I look at first? I guess I'll look at the Philadelphia experiment, this one news story right here, talking about this. Well, on this, talking about read about the facts of it. Throughout recent history, the United States has probably been the center of conspiracy theories that alleged cover-ups than anywhere else. The Philadelphia experiment is an alleged event wrapped in a conspiracy theory cloaked in mystery and has twists and turns and you could shake a smoking gun at. No surprise that the story has endured over and is still debated to this day. An experiment that was said to have taken place during the Second World War has been linked to time travel as far as the future of the 20th century, but not mention claims of people being phased out of existence, alternative timelines, and apparent secret projects that are both blood-curdling and darkly intriguing in equal measure. While it's never been confirmed and usually believed to be nothing more than a hoax, one which the U.S. government denies vehemently, there are a lot of very interesting nations and stories out there. The U.S. has had access to cloaking equipment more than 70 years ago. Then where else can they have stored away in their magic box? Perhaps bizarrely, it was the release of a B-rated sci-fi movie, 84, based on these alleged events that brought the once thrown-away conspiracy back into the public arena, apparently helping to unlock the repressed memories of one key witness. Before we get into that, though, and the events that led up to it, at the trailer of the aforementioned movie, The Philadelphia Experiment. We could look at that, folks, but I don't want to get a copyright strike. Need for invisible ships and stuff. Invisible ships, huh? World War II engulfed much of the planet as the 40s struggled on, the crossing of the Atlantic for U.S. Navy vessels carrying supplies to Allied forces in Europe. An increasingly deadly journey. 42 alone could close to 1,000 U.S. and Allied ships were sunk by German submarines. Their valuable cargo ultimately lost to the sea. To add further insult, to combat this, Allied forces created smaller escort destroyers in the docks, shipyards of the upper East Coast, United States. One of these was the Eldridge. These faster, slicker ships were much more easily controlled, and more important, they were a genuine threat to German submarines. The USS Eldridge was also said to be invisible to their enemies, while a technique called degassing was relatively widespread during World War II. A technique that manipulated the electromagnetic field around the vessel. Some believe that the technology in the USS Eldridge went way beyond mere radar invisibility and literally made it optically invisible. It is claimed by people who subscribe to such theories that the finest minds had worked this this device, including Einstein, who was generally employed by the U.S. Navy at the time. He also claimed that such foundations of the work was based on stolen papers. Tesla, who coincidentally or not, died only several months earlier in January 1943. His paperwork and notebooks that contained his work and theories that mysteriously gone missing from within hours of his death. Rumors. I thought he died in 48. Very strange there. Hours of his death, rumors spread that the FBI had confiscated them, something that they deny to this day. They are still officially missing, but several informants come forward saying the U.S. secret CIA time travel experiments have been conducted based on the information within Tesla's private papers. Actual Philadelphia experiment. As well as the Skeldon crew on board the USS Eldridge at the time of the U.S. experiment. The USS Eldridge, aboard the USS Eldridge at the time of the experiment, there were several military figures observing from close but safe distance. This story suggests that out of nowhere, upon switching on whatever device they were utilizing, the whole ship basically was. That is something to be said, huh? What happened? I mean, how did this ship, if this actually did happen, how did were they able to accomplish this with the technology back then? I can't believe it could actually happen, that technology like that could exist with using the technology back then. Mainly because we don't know what could really actually happen in this world. A lot of people say that the world works the way it does, that there's scientifically explainable, and that there's no such thing as aliens or stuff like that, and that you can't basically make a whole ship disappear into the freaking and basically time travel it just because some guy pushed a lever with some basically rudimentary ancient technology. I have my doubts that can't happen. I think it could very well be that someone back then actually developed this technology to Tesla, and it got stolen from Tesla. The U.S. Army was trying to use it, and they actually did rip a hole in time. Well, yeah, causing the ship to disappear. Let's see. Was it the whole ship basically engulfed? The whole ship engulfed in a strange green-tinged fog. A few minutes later, before their very eyes, the entire vessel vanished in a flash of blue light. Two reports of the incident. It was claimed to have reappeared in New Fork, Virginia, 200 miles away, when it remained in full view for all to see for 10 minutes. It then disappeared from the waters and appeared again in the shipyards of Philadelphia. Not only had it become invisible, the whole ship, including her crew, instantly teleported to another location and back again. However, the horror that awaited those on board, as well as the witnesses to the events, was beyond comprehension. Well, the crew was said to be suffering from extreme nausea, while others had apparently turned completely mad, could not be calmed. Rumors had that these men were secretly placed in asylums. Their families told that they had been lost at sea during the war effort. Those men seemed were the lucky ones. Other crew members said to be embedded into the steel of the ship itself, as if their molecular structure had been, fused to it, undone, and then entwined with that of the destroyer. Those that seemed to escape the incident unharmed were later said to be victims of freezing, an experience that saw them almost fade out of existence temporarily, as if they were a hologram that was losing power. It's very weird. Just think about it. You basically being fused to a ship, or basically going mad, as if they were basically exposed to something beyond their comprehension, right? And then the Navy lying to your family saying that you'd been lost. They didn't do anything like kill these men, did they? That didn't put them out of their misery. They could have done that. No. Because of what these men had been through, they wanted to keep these men around so they could basically study them. Even the insane ones who didn't have any, weirdo abilities, or basically infused to the ship, or basically freezing, basically disappearing. You got to understand, if you do that, the government was probably going to put you in somewhere, or at least try to put you somewhere, so they could study you. They want to know the effects. Not to mention, these guys are literally disappearing and reappearing. Can we use that somehow? Morris K. Jessup, Origins of the Conspiracy. it was in the 1950s with the alien and UFO craze in full swing across America that the seeds of the Philadelphia conspiracy were planted. 55, author and researcher Morris Kay released his book, Case for the UFO, which was well received by the general public. The following year, Jessup received the first of what could be several letters and correspondence from a man named Carlos, sometimes known as Carl, who was writing in response to this book. In particular, Jessup's call for further study Einstein's unified field theory. According to the information it apparently had, the theory had already been studied, implemented by the U.S. Navy. From these series of communications came the basis of events. October 43 in Philadelphia, claimed to have been a crew member in this nearby SS Andrew Frenchmouth, had gone unnoticed from his visits on the ship's deck. From there, he assured Jessup that he had witnessed the entire episode. Woohoo. So he saw this ship basically disappear, huh? Basically go to somewhere else, also well as having two crew members time travel into the future as well. We'll be talking about that as well. Yeah. We also try to talk about how the MIB is involved in basically shadow people as well, because apparently this experiment caused something where people were seeing shadow people, or people during the experiments were seeing people who looked like shadow people going around the various bases. That's very strange. If they actually did rip a hole in reality, I wouldn't be surprised if creatures from another dimension were basically wandering around on Earth then. Let's see. Continued his research into the alleged Philadelphia experiment and eventually able to attend the Office of Naval Research for further study. When he arrived at U.S. naval officer handed him a copy of their aforementioned book. As he opened it and thumbed through its pages, he saw careful annotations had been made throughout the manuscript. It appears as though there were at least 3 different people having made these corrections to his work. One of the handwriting styles he immediately recognized as being Allen's. Whatever. Many theories were discussed within the notes. Least was the event that would become known as the Philadelphia experiment. Jessup himself, a scientific but ardent UFO researcher, continued his work for several more years. Several more, huh? A shaping of reality by U.S. authorities. Notion first came to light from a discovery made in a 2002 book by James Marsley, one of Carl Puff's back in 57. Well, Carl right there, back in 1957. The book states that Jessup was contracted by the Office of Naval Research due to a partial they had received, which was heavily annotated. Whatever. Basically, they put a bunch of stuff in there to check the book and stuff. A version of his UFO book mentioned earlier. This book, there was a variety of different conclusions drawn and discussed, held between their 3 different individuals. One referred to as Jamie. Jamie. The other 2 become really known as merely known as, well, a couple of letters, huh? A and B. Well, let's just call them letters. They discuss many different theories, including discussing 2 forms of people live in the outer regions of space. However, most interesting in regards to this is their allusion to the Philadelphia experiment. They suggested some kind of extensive knowledge about the event in their wording, and the book itself became published by the Office of Naval Research and sold in full color. The fact that the 3 individuals speaking within the book seemed to be more than certain that what their theories suggested actually took place, and it's another part of the theory that helps to add some credulity, however minor. Another key part of the discussion comes from the 1979 book, The Philadelphia Experiment, Project Invisibility. Inside this book, the author Charles Blitz speaks of a conversation recorded by Jessup, which noted that Albert Einstein had in fact finished his unified field theory, but the man was not ready for it. Not ready. Man. That's very weird there. I'm not so sure I believe this. Man was... While there is no supporting proof of evidence to back his claim by historians who follow the life and success of Einstein, it's pretty tough to just disregard it completely. Maybe not. Maybe we should. I don't know. Mainly because it sounds like they're trying to control this theory and stuff like that. Basically, what the government wanted to control it so they could use it for their own means, and that kind of. I really hope not, because I don't really trust the government to use this. I like the government. Maybe I don't. I just don't think they should have this kind of power. I'm on to something big. 1959, he had made a breakthrough in his research, and in April of that year, arranged to meet fellow scientist Dr. J. Valentine. to discuss his work and how he should present it. It was main he never made it. Instead, he drove to Matheson's Hamburg Park in Dade country, and proceeded to take his own life by running a tube from his exhaust into his vehicle. His death was obviously ruled as suicide, but those who knew him in particular, those who knew of his work, had their doubts. Early Jessup, this Jessup guy killed himself, believed that he had made it. He had made his breakthrough. Jessup was believed to have committed suicide. A guy who basically dabbled in UFOs and stuff like that. Talking about all this weird stuff, and he just happened to kill himself this year, Kill himself, Okay, it's very strange. Yes, people do. Yeah, it's very strange because out of the blue, no one who what did the people who know him know about his character? Did they think he could do this? And him just coming out of the blue and killing himself almost happens all the time with these kind of stories like that. Does anyone actually believe that this guy willingly killed himself? The Valentines themselves expressed concern after his body was discovered, stating that he had been trying to contact Jessup for 3 full days before his apparent suicide. They claimed to have been genuinely worried about what he had told them. On his final phone call, Dr. Valentine that he was on to something big. Eesh. The story took on many strange twists from this point, including Landry stating that he had in fact made up the entire story. Of course he did. Of course he would say that. He would then later claim that he had been telling the truth all along, and his earlier confession should be disregarded. Hardly behavior that makes him a credible source or witness. You can say that as much as you want, but maybe the guy didn't want to get killed. But the letters he sent Jessup are very interesting, reading as his apparent deathbed confession on the issue. For the most part, the conspiracy has been put to bed. Allender had been exposed as a fake and an opportunist. Jessup had committed suicide. This was until the mid-'80s when the low-budget sci-fi movie, based on the events, was apparently closer to the truth. Perhaps even its makers realized. The bizarre Albic, and Ed timeline connection. All right. Following his watching of the 1984 movie, Al Bielek began to experience memories of his life that he had claimed had been intentionally hidden from him. As he accessed more and more of these repressed memories, he began to paint a picture that was more fascinating than any sci-fi movie the most imaginative writer could have written. And according to Bielek, it was all very true. The events were so intense they had apparently ripped a hole in space-time to 1983, and Bielek himself saw his life interwoven with another person entirely called Ed Cameron. The proposed timeline of Al Bielek, Ed Cameron is an intriguing one, and not least because it takes some getting your head around it. It is probably best that we pick up the timeline from 1943 when the Philadelphia experiment was said to have taken place. When according to Bielek, he was serving on the USS Eltridge. And here's this guy himself. All right. After the experiment, after they started and stuff like that, the ship had in fact been sent forward in time 40 years to 1983, and not simply teleported to another location in the United States. Bielek and the crew were were basically sent into the future. There with it, and only he was now Ed Cameron, and was with Ed's brother Duncan, along with the other unfortunate skeleton crew who had been kept on board as the experiment took place. Bielek, as Cameron, claims to have witnessed the grim realities of the molecular physical breakdown. He got fused with the guy. He became this Ed Cameron guy. Basically, he switched places mentally with him. How very strange. This is the first time I've heard of something like that. Usually I heard that Al Bielek was there himself and did like that, and maybe Ed Cameron, he said Ed Cameron was there, basically, but somehow him, both of them had been fused together somehow. Okay. I don't have a problem with that, because listen, if the whole thing was going nutty like this, I can imagine such crazy stuff happening. Of other crew members, and in panic leapt from the side of the ship with his brother, expecting to hit the water below. Yeah, they were seeing everyone basically go nuts and basically start fusing, and basically everything The reality itself began going nutty, so they jumped ship. They instead found themselves falling through a perpetual clouds in a strange nothingness, confused, disoriented, and scared. They soon blacked out. They awoke to find themselves in a hospital covered in strange burns, floating cities of the 28th century. Stranger was the fact that the year was 2137. Ed and Duncan Cameron spent several weeks in the hospital being treated for, burns. Being treated radiation burns that, according to Bielek, who was now Ed Cameron, who had been sustained in hyperspace, the nothingness they experienced when they had leapt from the U.S. Eldridge. The short video below features Al Bielek. The U.S. Eldridge, the short video below features Al Bielek. All right. Following this brief stay, and for reasons unknown even to himself, right. Following this brief stay, and for reasons unknown even to himself, Cameron was then sent hurtling forwards even further in time. This time to the year 2749. He spent 2 years in the 28th century, in claiming that he worked as a tour guide during his stay. During the many lectures and interviews that Bielek gave from the early 90s until his death, 2011, he claimed he had clear memories of his time in the future. He claimed that the entire planet was controlled by a synthetic computer system, that humans, for the most part, inhabited floating cities, moved around the planet, and were controlled entirely by this system. Ugh. I think, you don't want to be controlled by any computer system. Got to do something about that. The synthetic computer system, a computer ruling humanity. He also claimed that there were several independent floating cities that had their own independent computer systems to keep order. This synthetic computer system was described by Bielek as a huge crystal that communicated with people telepathically. Particular assertion is interesting given recent advancements in the use of crystals for storing data in computers. Governments, at least as we understand them today, do not exist. 28th century, he also revealed that in the 28th century, he also revealed that they don't exist. He also revealed that the proportion of the planet had been drastically reduced to 300 million, and then intentionally held at that figure permanently. He spoke of some people choosing to live outside of these computer-ruled cities, almost as rebels or a resistance of sorts. Perhaps more chilling, that Bielek claims that no one he spoke to in the 28th century seemed to know who had built the computers that ruled them or why. Great. That just sounds perfect. Anyone else want to basically... Here's 20th century and the wing wankers. This is him talking about it. Back to 43. Regressed existence in Project Montauk. Regressed existence. Following his 2-year stay, 2751, Cameron was suddenly pulled back through time to 83, where he was back in the company of his brother Duncan, according to Bielek. The two brothers who were then debriefed and convinced to travel back in time to 43. Both brothers were still employed by the U.S. government to work on top-secret projects. Ed Cameron was considered a threat to the project, so much so that Bielek claims he was regressed out of existence, right back to the year 1927. 27, into the body of one Al Bielek, hence the connection that Bielek believes he was with Ed Cameron. After his repressed memories came back to him, did Bielek understand why he could understand adult conversations before the age of 1, even though he himself, as a baby, could not yet talk, believed it is because he had the soul or the memories of Cameron within his genes. Bielek worked as an electrical... Yeah, I can believe that too. If they're basically messing around with stuff like this, and you're switching bodies, you're basically having your very soul altered and basically put into new bodies as well as body like that. I can believe all of this happening and stuff, especially with the kind of technology they were using, or what they said could happen with it. I can believe that there are things that with time that you could be so insane that would almost seem like magic, and this is why I do believe that something like this could happen. But is this guy telling the truth? Maybe, but we can't prove it is the problem. I mean, if we could prove it, we'd have that kind of power, wouldn't we, folks? Bielek worked as an electrical engineer, young adult, but claimed he regressed memories revealed. He had been approached. He had been approached to work on a secret project for the U.S. government as far back as the 60s. The work he did undertake, sometimes but not exclusively, at the Montauk base was carried out in what Bielek describes as an altered state. of light and dark energy, 100,000 years in the future. Some of his future claims were that he had been sent to Mars by teleportation to obtain light and dark energy, while another time he was sent to the year 6037 on another secret mission. He had stated that he was sent as far back as 100,000 years into the future on a mission to a remote research station. Perhaps more concerned, certainly if you believe that there is any truth at all, his claims and stuff, are the assertions that the number of missing children and teenagers in the United States are a result of top secret experiments that use these youngsters as guinea pigs to carry out such secret missions as the ones that Bialik himself took part in. Here's another video about this stuff. Montauk experiment. I might have to talk about that as well. Strange turn in an already strange case. Indeed, things take a slightly strange turn, though, when you look into events that came after the Philadelphia experiment. It is strange that that name most commonly linked to being in charge of said experiment, Dr. John Van Neumann, Dr. John Van, also in charge of a similar project, the future known as the Montauk Project. The project specifically looked into how our minds deal with consequences of time travel. Two reports, he tried to link the mind with a computer and found great success in trying these out, and it was through these research that Van Neumann made his assertion that his mind could create matter from absolutely nothing, given the right circumstances. He also claims to have sent Preston Nichols, through a time continuum twice, which was backed by Duncan Cameron, 1985. Duncan Cameron worked for the National Security Agency. We've heard a lot about them in recent times, haven't we? So it's one of the first times that any kind of reference has been made officially about the Montauk Project. The Philadelphia experiment continues to enthrall people still today, perhaps a testament to the multi-layered aspect of the conspiracy. Indeed, one of the things that makes it so hard to just debunk, though, is when people like Bialik, a PhD in physics, so obviously an intellectual individual, vouch for the assertion that time travel is possible, indeed has been used in the past. Many purposeful reasons to basically not believe this. Majority of people would dismiss the theory as the main body of evidence is the unqualified and unproven testimony of one man, which usually would be, yeah, but he was a PhD in physics, huh? Someone like that basically saying that this did happen, which usually would not be enough for a rumor of this scale to carry legs. It was penned by Robert Gorman in 80 edition of Fate magazine that Carl Meredith Allen, Pennsylvania, who was well known in the local area to have significant psychiatric problems. Therefore, it's easy for people to dismiss the theory based on the fact that he was essentially written off as crazy. Of course he would be. Another key part of the evidence is the fact that when the story first started to really sprout its own legs, know that Allen was extremely difficult to actually locate or speak to. However, Gorman was able to find out his real identity. A family friend within just a few phone calls. Therefore, the lack of genuine first-hand professional research into the claims made even the author of the claim further discredits the story. Microfilm also exists to try and further discredit the theory. Full action logs of the U.S. Eldridge during the Second World War. Yeah, and those can be faked, making the entire theory itself difficult to follow. Of course, that could very well be the point by absolute design after all, as we have examined on many occasions previously. Disinformation and hiding such outlandish claims within equally outlandish claims is pretty standard procedure. Yeah, they make out hiding these outlandish claims with equally outlandish claims, basically muddying the waters together. You have something that actually happened, something so insane stuff, and you actually have evidence of it. How do you discredit this? You make other equally outlandish claims, other insane things. You also make fake evidence to support them. Then you basically try and connect them. So basically, and you prove that, and you basically point to the fact that these fake claims, the evidence that you have for it, the fake evidence you made, is indeed fake. And therefore, you make the claim that this other evidence, this other stuff that it's now connected to, is also fake. You don't exactly know how it is, but you make the claim that because these people are related to it, like the fact that this guy claimed this that did happen, but then he went back and said it didn't happen, but later on recanted again, saying this when he was years later that this actually did happen. You basically paint him as being someone who's being an unreliable witness, though you have to consider his life might have been threatened by people. So you make claims like that. You prove that one thing is fake because you may engineered it yourself. You have the fake evidence, and you prove that the evidence is fake. Then you basically paint the picture, even though you have no evidence to basically disproving that the whole thing happened. But basically, what you have here is something like there's no actual evidence to prove that it did happen. So you make claims that you attack the people's character and stuff like that. You prove that they were for this one other thing, or at least they are related to it, and it was proven to be false. Or they paint them having mental problems, or you start rumors like that. You basically claim all this other stuff. And you basically muddy the waters as much as possible to make sure no one can basically prove anything. That's a problem too. What happens if actual evidence comes up? Pause for a moment's contemplation, because it could be it could be possible to actually prove this to people 100%, but you'd actually need to have the thing there and basically prove it 100%. Maybe actually have an alien there. Who knows? If you actually contacted by aliens, maybe actually instead maybe have a humanoid alien. Like you see different stories like that. Maybe have him actually have his spaceship. Maybe make it fly over the freaking White House. Maybe prove to people that they can't be stopped. Maybe because you want to stop someone like the U.S. government from doing this sort of thing, because you don't want them to succeed and make this world into an idiotic place. The most plausible theory comes from a rather simplistic way of looking at this situation. If the American government has been bold enough to carry out sorts of alleged incidents over the years, makes time travel or cloaking so out there? What makes time travel or cloaking so out there? Because it's hard to prove as it is. We can't recreate the experiment because we don't know how exactly they actually accomplished it. And they basically, when they did this, the Eldridge was a mistake probably, or had something to do with something else. They weren't intentionally trying to make a time travel machine. It was just a freak accident. But nevertheless, they had that stuff now, and they were going to basically study it to learn how it works. And maybe we have to figure out some way to stop them. All right. Whoops. Depending on your opinion of the U.S. government, it can really shift your. That's badly. I think it could have been written better. It will shift your view in one of the way or another that makes you think that it might be more possible than we actually being informed. After all, it's well known that plenty of experiments take place every single year that the general public have little to no knowledge about. Is it really so far-fetched to think that at one stage during a period of intense war that was increasingly at the balance of the Americans looked to try and find a savior of sorts, the power of teleportation during the Second World War would have finished the war in brutal speed? Nothing would have been able to combat this kind of brutal power and efficiency. One thing that can be said about the war is that it allowed technology, specifically military technology, to progress to a never-seen-before rate. As all of these new advancements were made, how likely is it that at least one faction of that war were working on something a little more groundbreaking? As I said, they were, rather than faster or tougher tanks and more accurate assault rifles. Yeah, but as I said before, they weren't trying to make the Eldridge teleport. They were trying to make a cloaking device. I mean, they already did something that basically, as you said, basically making it so it's basically harder for it to be detected on radar. But what they wanted to do is make it better. What they wanted to do was make the ship, basically be not noticed by the enemy more easily. They weren't trying to teleport the ship anywhere. Really, not too insane to imagine that there might be divisions during war that looked purely at the highest of technology. Yeah, what this technology can actually do. Whether or not they were successful changes the theory entirely, of course. It still stands to reason that one stage there were discussions about how technology that would change the world forever could be researched and then armed. A conspiracy that seemingly feeds itself. Would it not seem quite obvious that if we had the potential for time travel and cloaking for the last 6 or so decades, then we would have used it to a mainstream environment? These are just two of the technologies. Yeah, if we have time travel, we might be using it, but it could be that other people now have technology, people in the future who've gone back in time and basically altered history so that we don't have time travel, because I really dislike the idea of us having time travel technology, at least the government, because I just trust them as well as the rich people and as well as not just rich people, that other types of people and stuff that don't need this kind of technology. And it would probably be best if there were possible that someone should go back in time and make sure that none of these people get it. There are two that people are absolutely desperate to get their hands on. These are two of just these are just two of the sorts of things desperate that people are desperate to get their hands on, and that could generally affect the way the world operates for better in so many ways. Yeah, I suppose, maybe, I don't know. As I said, I don't want this kind of power being in the government's hands or on anyone who else's in modern, or anyone else's hands, really. Maybe who really would need this kind of power, this time travel power? They basically go anywhere in both space and time. Huh? It could be used for. I say is that if the government had it, it would probably be a very bad thing. Actual consequences of the events, developments, and genuine conspiracy theory is one that can be quite tough to fathom. Not only does it add to the swelling ranks of conspiracy theories out there in modern society, but about the dirty and devious things that go on that none of us ever truly find out the truth over. But it creates another layer. And I do think that it could be possible to find the truth about it, but you'd probably need the kind of technology here to do it and stuff like that. Mistrust towards very important parts of technological development. Yeah, that depends. Do we really need time travel or any of this super technology? Especially, do you think it would make the world a better place? Basically, falling on the side that you think this would make, if everyone knew about it, it would make the world a better place. I have my doubts about that. How can a government devote its time and resources into something so hugely important without some kind of public backlash? Yeah. Would things like the Philadelphia experiment only raise questions as to why this hasn't been revealed sooner? Maybe not, maybe. These might sound like basic consequences of the story being told, but it really does change the entire format of the development of new technology. We believe that things are only developed and improved for covert military use. Yeah, but how do you improve time travel? Do you understand it? Most people don't understand what time is. We don't even really understand what time is or how to use it. It could be that's just an accident, and that if you repeat the process, you might not get the same result. After all, it seemed like this was an entirely, freak occurrence that happened. Then it's going to be, tough to find the support and funding for new technologies in the future, as public opinion is going to be hampered by theories like this. You're saying that we shouldn't basically listen to theories like this because it shows how bad technology like this can do, how it could be misused? Well, I think that's a good idea. Maybe we shouldn't develop these kinds of technologies. You think it's all good. We need faster-than-light travel. Basically, even though from what I can see that basically ship traveling faster than light is impossible. Or wormholes, because guys need to be able to do that because you think it'll improve the world. I have my theories. I have my ideas that if you basically send people out in space, they'd still be the jerks they are now, and all they're doing is inflicting jerks on planets far out into space. Yeah, it's great. You'd still have humans acting like humans, and you want to send them into outer space or throughout time. Oh, annoying. With this all said and done, it is not completely beyond the realm of possibility that these discoveries are kept well and truly behind, in secret. Yeah. And I think it should be. This should be public knowledge, but it doesn't mean that this technology should be used. Only because it could be misused badly. Invisibility, more credence to Bielek in the Philadelphia experiment. Of course, the one thing that hurts Bielek's credibility more than anything is his offering no physical proof of his journeys in time. Also offers no explanation as to how some of his wider claims, such as existence regressions were achieved. He countered these accusations by asserting that he can only access what his brain allows him to. Furthermore, that those memories have been intentionally hidden from him throughout the altered state his mind was at the time. That being said, certain elements of the claims are perhaps worth delving a little deeper. While we have looked at time travel and mind control in previous articles, the question of invisibility is an interesting one. Given known developments in this field. There are some reports of actual invisibility cloaks having been developed very recently. Canadian company who perhaps unwillingly became intertwined somewhat with the strange death of Elsa Lam, who was discovered naked in a sealed water tank on the top of the Cecil Hotel in 2013. There is an absolute plethora of theories as to what happened to the young Canadian, one of which particularly relevant to the alleged technologies involved in this Philadelphia experiment. Invisible Light Company development right under our noses. The Invisible Light Company appeared to have been, operating out of a room at the Cecil Hotel of time of Lamb's stay. It seemed that she had taken a particular interest in their activities, even posting pictures online in social media forums of what they were working on. One of these technologies was said to have been cloaking devices. She also used social media to share a story that the company were about to be commissioned by the Pentagon to develop these cloaking devices. Had they been testing them at the Cecil Hotel, Lam's last known movements were recorded in the security camera of an elevator of the hotel. It is haunting, spine-tickling footage, to say the least. Lam acts as though she can sense someone close to her, though even appearing to follow an unknown invisible entity's movements with her eyes while pressed against the wall of the elevator. Some people feel that Lamb's actions, particularly in the hallway around the 2-minute mark, appear as though there were two invisible people who are manipulating, bending her arms. Did she get too close to the technology so secret it would be worth killing for? Yeah, you can look at that as well. Elsa Lam video, we could look at that. In fact, I need to go into that, look into that case as well. Where do we go from here? Is there any truth in secret technologies being developed? And most people, even those in the mainstream, accept that the government are usually 20 or 30 years ahead of us where the public thinks. Yeah, they usually are ahead of us 20 to 30 years, huh? Then maybe the claims of secret projects such as Montauk are also true. It wouldn't be the first time such wild theories have turned out to be grimly true. A further reason for concern is that still to this day there are an extraordinary amount of children and teenagers who will go missing in the United States. Bialik was making such claims before the internet and before many had pieced together that there was a larger problem of missing young people that had previously been imagined. It's a subject that brings a lot of volatility to the surface, with people unsure one way or another as to what is going of what. Yeah. By the way, folks, this is pretty bad, huh? I mean, think the government is actually doing these sort of things? Are they actually basically enslaving people to do their bidding? Or is this what, like they say with alien abductions? They're actually, the government has made deals with aliens that allow them to basically kidnap people to abduct them for experiments. As I said, if any of this was ever proven to be true, well, I think a lot of people would basically go after the ones responsible for this and basically, just go after them and do something to them. By the way, folks, hit that like button for me, as well as please go share this video on social media. Montauk Chair. Bob Rogers, thank you for coming in. Bob Rogers, Little Miss Sunshine. I swear I'm from another universe. The math is different here. John Trump, Donald's uncle, confiscated Tesla's stuff. Yeah, I did think I heard something about how some guy who, what happened with Tesla's works, that someone famous and rich basically was part of it. Yeah, I think John Trump or someone else like that, or rather someone who's basically rich like that. Bob Rogers, the Hutchinson, Tesla's works. The Hutchinson effect, huh? The other effects as well. It all makes sense to somebody. Project Bluebeam. Yep. Don't like that one either, where they're basically Project Bluebeam and stuff like that. That should not, I don't think Project Bluebeam could ever happen anymore, because I think too many people know about the kind of technology and they would basically fill others in on it. Your channel is seriously underrated. We'll get a boost one day. Just be patient. Thank you. Thank you, miss. Thank you. Thank you. But let's go. I'm almost through this article, and then maybe we'll look at something else. Yeah, perhaps further reasons to this day. We got rid of that. Is a subject that brings a lot of, it might be what the truth might be, what it is, what the truth. After reading through the various of evidence and all of the testimony, myth, debunking, and everything else that comes with this theory, it is hard to discern one way or another what the actual truth is. Yeah, what is the truth here? What do we know about this? Well, we only know what we've. Yeah, this documentary below. Yeah, we only know what we've seen so far and about this movie, and stuff like that. We know that various things have happened, and basically it all seems very strange. It also basically paints the people who, if this stuff were to be true, in a very bad light, because this makes them out to be murderers and basically monsters, kidnapping people, children, basically using them as slaves. And if there's any relation to any of this, it's just that this kind of technology would probably be misused. Now, I decided I was going to look at the MIB shout people to the Philadelphia experiment. MIB shout people in the Philadelphia experiment. Let's see how, As someone who writes books, gives lectures, and posts articles here at Mysterious Universe, a lot of feedback, for the most part, it comes from people who want to share their experience, ask questions, or offer their opinions on the things I have written about. Occasionally, however, I find myself on the receiving end of communications of several from someone claiming insider, background and stuff like that. A whistleblower, in other words. Insider, a whistleblower, in other words, or should I say a whistle? In other words, it doesn't happen as often as insider. Other words, it doesn't happen as often as more than a few have assumed. I don't get asked to meet people in the know in underground parking areas at midnight, and I have never been invited to view a bunch of dead aliens held in a secure, fortified bunker. So there's that. Yeah, there is that and stuff like that. So this guy has only been told what he knows, what he's been able to discover on his own when he wrote this article. There have, however, been a few occasions when my path has crossed with that of an enigmatic characters, whose backgrounds did indeed place them in the world of certain covert operations connected to UFOs in one way or another. This occurred most graphically when I researching writing my books on the trail of the Sarsis spies, body snatchers, the desert, and final events. Body snatchers were published back in 2005, Sarsis spies in 2006, events in 2010. In other words, more than quite a while ago. Beyond that, and inside from the occasional tidbit, I really don't get into deep throat type figures giving me a knock and stuff, or rather contacting me. That's what the writer of this article says. He wrote a few books, but he has occasionally met people who have been in league with UFOs and stuff, or have basically been in the same room with UFOs and stuff like that. Knowing about what's really going on with this stuff. But just a few days ago, it happened. In this case, it really came in the form of a known caller. Call in the early afternoon. The elderly man at the other end of the line said that he had read my books, Men in Black, Women in Black, and wanted to share something relevant and all revolved. He said around the notorious, Philadelphia Experiment 43. So before I got on with the story, there's a bit of background on the controversial event, or non-event, depending on your opinion. Back in 55, Jessup's book, Case for the UFO, was published. It was a book that delved deeply into two key issues: theoretical power source of UFOs, B, the utilization of the universal gravitational field, form of energy. After the publication of his book, Jessup became the recipient of a series of extremely strange messages from certain Carl Mangans. Pennsylvania's correspondent, Ellen, a very unreliable and discredited figure. Allendry, commented on Jessup's theories. He also gave details on an alleged secret experiment conducted with the U.S. Navy in the Philadelphia Naval Yard, October 1943. Thus was born the highly controversial saga was become known as the Philadelphia experiment. According to him, an incredible tale during the experiment, a warship that was rendered optically invisible teleported to and then back from Norfolk, Virginia, in a few minutes. The incredible feat was supposedly accomplished by applying Albert Einstein's never completed field theory, Alandry elaborated that the ship used in experiment was the DE-173 USS Eltridge, and moreover that the Alandry had actually witnessed one of the attempts to render both the ship and its crew invisible from his position, but at sea on board a steamer called the USS Andrew Wordsworth. If Alandry was telling the truth, then the Navy had not only begun to grasp the nature of invisibility, but it also stumbled upon the secrets of teleportation of the type demonstrated years later. In fictional on-screen format, in The Fly or those very matters, Alandry made the disturbing claim that the experiment rendered many of the crew members as mad as hatters. Others supposedly vanished from the ship while the test was at its height, never to be seen again. Others reportedly suffered horrific and agonizing deaths. For the record, I don't believe at all that a number of the crew were plunged into the future. That's just complete rubbish. I don't know about that. If something like this was happening, I could believe it. Nor do I believe that for years afterwards, the surviving sailors were briefly vanished from view, then returned from their states of temporary invisibility. But I am open to the possibility that perhaps some kind of experiment may have gone ahead. It may have provoked bizarre hallucinations and made it appear as if extremely strange things were afoot on the ship. We're talking about a far from known to Earth experiment, a far more down-to-earth experiment, but which had unforeseen effects on the minds of a very small number of the crew. Why I think that is something I will discuss in another article in the next couple of weeks. All of which brings us back to the matter of Mr. Unknown Caller. Like me, he had no name for the teleportation or time travel-based scenarios. But what he did believe was certainly as controversial, perhaps even more so. He claimed that in the early 80s, he was given the opportunity to read USS Navy files that told the real story of the Philadelphia experiment. He was extremely cagey on verifiable facts. No surprise there, I have to say, but mentioned that the experiment had a bearing on the aforementioned MIB women in black. I asked in what way. His reply was that the experiment, the process nature of which he would not comment on, created what he called shift that allowed those on board to see certain things in a normal state that you and I would not see, but which are supposedly around us all the time. We're talking about the MIB, WIB, and even what became popularly known in recent years, shadow people. So the tale went to the stories of crew members vanishing or becoming fused into the mail of the ship itself was very, very wide off the mark. They were, I was assured, widely distorted accounts of the crew seeing MIB, WB, and shadow people walking through walls, becoming invisible, and then reappearing. But that it didn't take long before the truth of the matter became a tale of vanishing sailors. Yeah, okay, that is something there right there. So does what happened with the Philadelphia experiment explain what's happening? Well, it says that something very bizarre did happen. So there's that. Very weird. And it's very strange. But what actually did happen? Did they actually see people actually time travel? Did they see the MIB? Did they see the shadow people? Did this experiment allow people to see them? I mean, what could be said about this? Okay, I can say that this story about this experiment has basically never been proven to have happened. But if an experiment like this did happen, I wouldn't be surprised if the government continued to research it later on, or continues to do so today, because, well, they've obviously been able to get something to happen. I'm not so sure they actually could replicate the effects again, because it might have been just a freak accident, but that doesn't mean they can't try it again. And if they did actually encounter MIB or women in black, or men in black and women in black and the shadow people, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't try to basically continue to try and basically study them as well, or at least to replicate the events to basically study them. Either way, please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you, okay? They're there as misspelled. Make sure you're still subscribed. Hit that like button for me, by the way. It helps me fight the algorithm as well, so more people can see my content. As well as please hit that, bell. Please hit the bell, will you? As well as make sure to hit the part where it'll make you, where you'll get all the notifications for my future videos. As well as please leave some comments down below. Please leave some comments down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. As well as please go share this video on Twitter and Facebook. As well as please go over to Stitch Together Picks. Stitch Together Picks is a YouTube channel that deserves far more subscribers. You're going to love his reviews of movies. They are good. As well as go over and subscribe to Creepy Little Book. Creepy Little Book is like the Art Bell radio show. He releases small videos talking about heist traditions, but he also does live streams every night. On weekdays, he live streams he live streams every night. So go and subscribe to Creepy Little Book. As well as please go and subscribe to my Rumble channel. Just go over to Rumble, search out the channel name. Well, search out my channel. It's called, Comic Freak. I upload, please go and subscribe to my Rumble channel, Comic Freak. As well as please go and please go and subscribe to my Rumble channel. It's called Comic Freak. As well as go over and please subscribe to my BitChute channel. My BitChute channel is also called Comic Freak. Now I upload all my videos to both places, so please go and subscribe to me. As well as please go and please come back tomorrow for another live stream, okay? I might live stream at 5 or 6 or maybe 8 or 10 for another live stream, so be sure to come back again then. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kill. Thank you all for joining me.